I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes sharing a very pragmatic perspective on the industry, what I'm seeing in my dialogue with customers every day on the front line. I'm heading a team focusing globally on the telco practice at SAP. I need my clicker. But before I start, I'll spend 1 minute on the date today, September 12th. It's important to me for two reasons. First of all, it's the official launch of the iPhone 8, right? So it marks the 10th anniversary of the first smartphone. Very difficult to remember what a world without smartphones was, but there was such a time, right? Important one. The second one is that it's my mom's birthday. She turned 77 today. And when I told her that I would be speaking in London for her birthday, she said, well, you can make reference to my birthday, but please do not show any picture of me. And that was so tempting. So here she is. Happy birthday, Mom. So full disclosure, I didn't mean to share that. When I was walking to this place this morning, I called her. I called my mom to wish her a happy birthday and to apologize for not having sent her a present because of my heavy travel schedule. And she said, oh, I'm so glad you called. You're the first one to call me today. Great to have your call. But for the present, you still have time because Amazon is doing same-day delivery now. So back to the smart customer topic. Like if you think 10 years after the smartphone that the smart customers are the millennials and the hipsters, I think the seniors want a piece of the action too, so keep that in mind. Digital disruption, we heard a lot about it. I think Melissa and others were talking about its impact. And I would like to start with a look at what happened in India in the last 12 months, because it's a fascinating example of disruption and how the market reacted it's kind of a self-contained market. So we saw, if you follow the news, you know that there is this new entrant, Reliance Jio, who launched a greenfield operation, building a network from scratch, with the ambition to democratize digital access in India and fuel digital India. They managed to get 100 million subscribers in less than 6 months, 170 days exactly. That's 7 subscribers acquired every second since the launch of their company, right? Granted that they did this with a lot of tricks, offering free services being one. Nonetheless, they managed to disrupt the market completely. And the reaction was immediate. Number 2 and number 3, Vodafone India plus Idea Cellular decided to merge. The merger will be official in 2018. But they decided to create a bigger competitor, 400 million subscriber, in order to better compete. And at the same time, Vodafone recommitted to an agenda of innovation, particularly on the customer insight side. And to me, it's a fascinating illustration of what disruption is going to be and the type of answers the incumbents have. Like, can they find the right balance between flexing their financial muscles through acquisitions, through consolidation, through mergers, and staying relevant, not being out-innovated by the new entrants? And that's all the dilemma, right? And for me, there is a particular pleasure in presenting this case because we're actually working with all these players. And sometimes it's a little bit schizophrenic because you have to put your hat, disruption hat versus incumbent being attacked hat, but nonetheless it makes for fascinating conversations. So when we look to the journey that service providers are taking to become a digital service provider, I think it's accepted that there are 2 key pillars that they can focus on. On one hand, they can digitize. We heard this morning. And here they will look to optimize business processes through digitization. And then they need to find new revenue streams to offset the decline, or stagnation at best, or decline of their core services. So on the digitization side, the processes that come, the more often in our conversations with customers are customer experience and customer centricity, the need to deliver a seamless omni-channel experience, to be very, very customer-minded, as we heard this morning. The particular importance of retail, and I think one of the speakers were mentioning that this morning, retail being viewed as the preferred access more and more to get quality customers. And then the related supply chain issues that are connected to that customer experience. And I think that the next speaker, Bella, will talk about that. And then on the new services, the search for new business models, I think that all telcos are trying to expand the portfolio of digital services that they offer. They look to home automation. They may look to cybersecurity, as we heard this morning, cybersecurity services. Healthcare, maybe, connected car-related services. I'll touch on this a little bit. Everybody is trying to understand if they can make money beyond connectivity in the IoT space. Can telcos build vertical stacks? Can they focus on and partner with an ecosystem that will help them to get more than just the few cents or euros they get to date with embedded SIMs? And then there is the promise of data monetization. I mean, we see the creation of Luca at Telefonica or Thales Smart in the Philippines trying to ride this wave. I think so far there is good intentions, but probably not much revenue. To illustrate these two pillars, I like to give you an anecdote of one of my last visits in London. Was to prepare, to meet with the CEO of a large Southeast Asia operator. When we reached out to the CEO to say, how do you want us to construct the agenda? He said, I would like to visit the Burberry store on Regent Street in London. So I got the message, so I went back to him and say, no, the question was whether you want to do during the meeting, not after, right? And he said, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to visit this store because I hear that Burberry has been able to leverage digital strategies to better connect with their customers. And I want to learn from a luxury retailer because my ambition is to expand my retail channel in order to deliver a window into the digital world to my subscribers so that not only they consume my core services plus data as much as possible, but that they see my company as a digital lifestyle provider. So it's an interesting insight into the psyche of a CEO and how he wants to connect those two worlds. Now, digitization is not, it would seem to be the easiest challenge of the two, but it's not. And I was looking for catchy quotes to highlight this. And the best one I could find, the most colorful one I could find is this one. It's from Thorsten Dirks, the former CEO of E+. I have to confess that I'm a French guy living in North America, working with a lot of Germans, and I'm constantly amazed at the ability that German people have to get to the point, right? And Thorsten really get to the point here. But his point is valid, right? So, I mean, it's the old garbage in, garbage out paradigm, revisited in a colorful way. But if you do not, particularly in some key processes, do the hard work and change the foundation of how you operate, then you will digitize for nothing. So, the key areas where we see this problem particularly acute is in the search for the seamless omni-channel experience. Very often in companies we will see, particularly large operators, we will see an amalgamation of systems that that are at various stages of maturity, that came from maybe a lot of consolidation and acquisition, so disparate systems that may be channel-centric. So you have one process for e-commerce, one process for retail, one process for indirect channel and your dealers. And you're trying to harmonize all these channels so that the customer that is coming to you can have a fluid interaction with you, can order something in one channel, pick it up in another, can buy something in one location, return it to another. And you want to create that seamless experience. And that's hard. Hence, back to the quote from Thorsten, the need to think about simplification. The related topic is on the supply chain side, particularly in consumer, in wireless. We see that there is very often a very, very fragmented world. Again, due to the multitude of applications that may exist, that may have been hardwired to specific channels, that may not talk to each other, and that leads to incomplete or inaccurate information. Which means that when you are committing to your customers that they can buy online and pick up in store, or you can do same-day shipping, you never have the right information. And so we're seeing a lot of effort from customers here to drive a fundamental platform modernization on their supply chain. I'd like to take a couple of examples to illustrate what I'm talking about. We do a lot of work with operators on the omnichannel side, but I chose to highlight something we do with sunglasses manufacturers and resellers called Maui Jim. And the reason why I chose to highlight this is that Maui Jim decided a couple of years ago to rethink their digital corporate strategy. And one of the fundamentals, the pillars of that strategy was, I want to compress the time it takes for my customers to receive the product they order. Very basic assumption or paradigm. And their ambition was to be able to deliver this in less than 2 hours. They rethought their architecture, thought about an open architecture, microservices, the ability to tap the value of an ecosystem, and they decided to partner with UberRush, and they're live now in 3 or 4 cities in the US, where as soon as you finish, you're on the website, as soon as you pick your sunglasses and you finish the order, a message is actually sent to an UberRush driver who's going to come immediately to pick up the sunglasses and deliver them to the customers. In some markets, they are able to deliver in 1 hour. In New York, it's a little bit harder with traffic, but that's an interesting example. I'm not suggesting that you guys get into the sunglasses business, but I think that this example has merit in terms of, can you offer the differentiated, faster, convenient service to some of your customers, to your premium customers. Maybe that's on the reverse logistics side for some of you, and that may be food for thought. On the supply chain side, we're working with a very large tier 1 operator in the US in that revamping of the supply chain. They had about 50 systems accumulated throughout the years, throughout the acquisitions they went through on the wireless side, and they decided to turn this into one. They want one version of the truth, they want real-time visibility, and they see the supply chain effort as the fundamental step to deliver omni-channel. Because the only way for them to deliver the scenarios they want to deliver, buy online, pick up in store, same-day shipping, is actually to have a real-time visibility. And they're live now on multiple thousands of stores. They have that single version of the truth, and they want to expand. And hopefully, before the end of the year, we'll be able to tell you the name and to give you the business benefits, but we're working on that. I want to spend a few minutes on another example, which is a digitization example. It is understood that digitization, as I pointed out, is a way to combat disruption, but it's also a way to maintain growth and ideally accelerate growth. Historically, growth in this industry has been defined on the consumer side by a couple of indicators. One is subscriber count, the other is average revenue per user. And if you grow on both, you're golden. And there is the assumption in this industry that the higher the spend, the better a customer is. A postpaid high spender is more valuable than a low-paid, prepaid low spender. That's accepted and that's fair enough. About 18 months ago, we were approached by one of the subsidiaries of Vodafone, who gave us, European subsidiaries, who gave us this challenge. It says, I would like to superimpose on this accepted view of growth, I would like to superimpose a margin dimension. I would like to be able to have an individual view on where I'm making money. I am making money with Stephan, with all the services that he buys from me. He might be spending a lot, but maybe I'm not making any money. I don't know that. This industry has been incapable of knowing that forever. It's complicated to do profitability management. There is a high volume. You need a lot of computing. Cost allocation is complex, direct, indirect. Do you charge the network upgrade? Where do you do this, etc.? Anyway, for whichever reason, this has never been done. So we've worked pretty hard with Vodafone on this project, and we achieved something. This subsidiary went live in March with the solution we developed, and this is what we found. We found that there was actually no correlation between making money and spending money. That there was an abnormal amount of high spenders that were actually money-losing customers. And there was an abnormal amount of low spenders that were extremely profitable. This was due to various conditions, situations. It could be a rate plan that was flawed. It could be an individual situation. But the fundamental conclusion that it is changing fundamentally the way this operator thinks about customers. And it's, as a result, it's kind of shifting a number of the strategies they had devised to engage with customers. An interesting outcome for this digitization activity. Now I'd like to switch to the new revenue, new business models. There are tons of things being done in the industry. There are all sorts of innovations being thought about. There are new divisions being created. New ventures. I mean, Orange is getting into the banking business, and then some competitors are following. All sorts of things being created. But for this presentation, I chose to highlight a few of the things we're doing in Japan. Japan is a very interesting market because, well, it's insular, no pun intended, but it's just that they tend to stay within their market, it's ultra-saturated. It's very, very connected, and it's on the leading edge of accelerating the evolution towards 5G, for example, and the latency issue that Marcus brought up. So what we've done is different things in that market. We combined forces, joined forces with NTT. They had an IP with a connected wearable, an undergarment that is able to give you real-time biometry information. They didn't know what to do with it. So we sat down and worked with them on a solution that is currently offered to bus companies in Japan to increase the safety of the services delivered. So not only we had telematics capabilities, we combined that telematics capability with the view into the vehicle with the biometry information of the driver. And that's something that is picking up in Japan, an interesting combination of IPs from a software company and an operator. We are part of a consortium that has launched very recently in Japan called Landlog for now. I think it's the full brand name is not available. And it's Komatsu, who is a construction equipment providers, excavators, trucks, etc., that has joined forces with NTT Docomo for sensors and connectivity, and with us for the cloud platform to deliver in the cloud all data related to construction process projects. So the time it takes to do a number of things, the connection between the land, the equipment, the people, made available in a cloud environment around this vertical. It's brand new. We don't know where it's going, but it's an interesting interesting experience around building an ecosystem of people that want to focus and make difference in a specific vertical. And then with SoftBank, well, their autonomous vehicle branch, we are actually part of their company is called SB Drive. We're part of the launch of an autonomous bus system in rural Japan. There was a first trial, actually, that took place in June in Okinawa. And there were many, many emails exchanged to determine if it was safe enough, so that the autonomous bus drove for 3 kilometers without any driver. And there were many emails exchanged to see if it was safe enough for the Minister of Transportation of Japan to be in the bus while it was driving. But the minister made it to point B safely, so that was good. And that's something we're also engaged in. One area, particularly in the US, where we see a lot of attention in that strategy to expand portfolio of digital services is the smart parking services. T-Mobile US has given access to smart parking capabilities to their valued customers. So if you spend a certain amount of money, you have access to a service delivered by a company called Mojo that turns your car into a smart car, and that allows you to have access to an inventory of smart parking spots in certain locations. We're seeing this as a big trend among the large operators in the US to focus on this, both smart parking and also a connected fueling that could allow you to potentially fuel in a cashless way in certain locations. Food for thought, something that we're directly engaged in. There should be today, US time, an announcement at Mobile World Congress Americas in San Francisco around this. I don't think that T-Mobile US will be quoted, but you know who we're working with. Just to close, becoming a digital service provider is probably a long journey. A lot of you are taking steps. I think that to go back to what was said this morning, on the digitization side, again, there is structural work that is probably required. There are difficult decisions to be made, and there is a need, and I think that was I was talking about this morning, to excel in the execution of these projects, because they're going to require tough decisions. You need to scale down from 50 applications to one single. There is going to be some challenges in that. But I think on that side, I think vision and execution excellence is going to matter. On this side, on the new revenue streams, I think that it's unlikely that telcos will be able to achieve that on their own, and they're going to have to rely on a motivated set of partners, the right set of partners, to help them get to these new revenue streams. It's unlikely they will be able to do this themselves, and it's fundamental for them to be able to build the right ecosystems as they move along. And I think I like to close where I started with the Apple launch, and just share a final personal anecdote about the power of co-innovation. About 11 years ago, I was part of a group of people that went to Cupertino to answer a call from Apple. Apple had contacted us. Apple and SAP are long-term partners. Apple contacted us 11 years ago, till 2006, and say, I have this idea that will require something that I've never done before, and I think that I'm going to need something, and that something was not called a multi-sided platform of micro-transaction at the time, or micro-payments. They said, I need something that can transact billions of 99-cent transactions. And if you project back when you didn't know that iTunes and App Stores would exist, it was a strange request. Oh, why 99 cents, first of all, and then where are you going with that? And we could not know where they were going. They didn't tell us. And we worked with Apple on that transaction engine. Then they said, well, we're going to need to do this in all currencies. We're going to need to have partner settlements, different partner settlements for music or for content. We're going to have special revenue recognitions if there are gift cards. And we shaped up something that 11 years later has handled billions and billions and tens of billions of transactions, has made billions and billions of revenue for Apple, and is still live and kicking, and is the engine under iTunes and the App Store. So I leave with you that. I think sometimes innovation comes from having a 99-cent-like idea. I hope you all can drive those, and we'll be happy to help you if you need a motivated partner to drive that. Thank you very much.